jam, cool. You probably see some form of traffic.
Oh dear. All right, for the final time in 2024, we get into the world of the papers, taking a look at the headlines, the stories making the rounds, and what is getting us talking on a Tuesday morning. This is Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. It is the 31st of December 2024. It's a Tuesday, and we are looking forward to the new year, but we're living in the present right now, putting our feet or planting our feet firmly in the ground and looking forward to what we are going to be getting into this morning. You know how it is. If you're just tuning in for the first time, it's all about the papers, the headlines. Analysis will follow, as well as your thoughts and your contributions as well. So we look forward to having great conversation with you. Once again, my name is Ayokunmi. Great to have you this morning on this ride with us. Joining me to take a look at the stories making the rounds and of course give his analysis and break things down, make sense of it all. Chibuzor is in on a Tuesday morning. Good morning to you, Chibuzor. Great to have you on the final day of 2024.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Ayo. We made it this far,
Indeed.
and yes, we do hope to get a better 2025.
No doubts about that one. I mean, looking at how 2024 has been such a roller coaster ride, we definitely look forward to 2025. That is less of a bumpy ride, a little more stability is what we definitely will be looking forward to. All right, you can join us this morning on the show as usual by sending your messages into us on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981. 0809 4440981. That is the WhatsApp number. So you can also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Join us on the live stream. You can also drop your comments there, and I'll take them alongside the WhatsApp messages as they get in. Okay, let's begin on this note, heading into the Punch newspaper and the one that was making the rounds just yesterday. It came like a bolt out of the blue, and it has to do with the Warri refinery. Now, oil marketers and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority have said the prices of refined petroleum products are to drop further following the commencement of operations at the Warri Refining and Petrochemicals Company Limited. Now, dealers in the downstream oil sector said competition in the space would now be stiffer as domestic refiners will be forced to reduce prices to get buyers. So it was announced to us yesterday that the Warri refinery, the 125,000 barrels per day capacity refinery, has commenced operations, and NNPCL have announced also plans to begin to export locally refined products to foreign countries in exchange for foreign currency as well. President Tinubu also mentioned that the refinery, at least it's working at about 60% capacity or thereabouts. But well, we are here now. The Warri Refinery has commenced operations, and definitely a lot of people will have a lot of questions to ask about this one, bearing in mind how the Port Harcourt Refinery also came on board, and within a few days there were hiccups here and there, and so on and so forth. So, what should Nigerians be expecting from this one? Any skepticism along the way, or should it be a matter of positivity moving forward?
So it depends on the side of the road that you want to stand on. There's obviously going to be some, given our relationship with the government and government institutions, especially the NPC over the last year, particularly, where we've had repeated information on news about openings, closures, performances, otherwise. Even the restart of the Port Harcourt refinery came with its own set of news where some, how, what are we really, what's really happening at the Port Harcourt refinery?
Mm.
What is it doing? Is it actually rolling out products? Is it just open? There are still a lot of questions came after those announcements, and those questions have still not been answered. But hey, I think for now we'll just stick with the official news, or the official information that they've provided to us. So what the GE what the group executive officer of the NNPC has said. Basically, that's Chief Mr. Mela Kyari has basically said that hey, Warri refinery is back. It's back in production. It's producing products. At the moment, it's not at 100%. I think the government president released a statement saying it was at 60%. It had the refinery has a capacity of about of
125,000
125,000.
barrels
So
per day.
60% put it basically at around 75,000 thereabout a day. So what you know that is what we're hearing from. That's the official state. Those are the official statements coming out with respect to the reopening of the Warri refinery. What we do expect to see, and what has been said by the what we do expect to see, is that over the last month, coming into December, we did see, for instance, the Dangote refinery, which is the big private refinery, coming out and basically dropping the prices of PMS coming out of the refinery, and
Right.
basically even offering deals like get buy one get one on credit, you know, and we can see a bit of the effect on the local market where prices dropped in several stations and several outlets who are basically obviously selling the output of that refinery, and obviously which is good for the local consumer. Um, people are, obviously there's some speculation that with this increased supply into the market, because if we do get to the point where we're actually producing PMS from the, I think from the original statements that they've not gotten to PMS yet. They're doing kerosene and I think
Naphtha.
naphtha, kerosene and the rest. But we do hope that at some point when they do get to PMS, or if they do get to PMS, it would increase the supply in the local market, which would have some effect on, or which could have some effect on pricing. So that's for local consumers. I think the flip side is what the other side is what the GD of the NNPC has said. Um, we do hope that what we do expect, or we do hope that at some point when they're able to be able to export some of these products at the refined level, instead of what we've been doing over time, which is just pushing out crude.
Mm.
Now we have the if we have the refineries, the government owned or state owned. I prefer to use the word state owned because it's actually owned by all Nigerians in reality, run by an NNPC. The state owned refineries, if we're able to get them upstream and they're refining capacity, at some point we're able to push out more of this refined product. We're able to get more value for the resource that we have within the country. So that is our expectation, and that is the hope and expectation that we would have as Nigerians, and that would also beef up the amount of money that the government is able to make and able to meet some of the needs, either funding the budgets, funding the debt payments, and every other thing that we had to deal with, and at some point, touching the plates and the doors of every Nigerian. That's our expectation and hope at some point.
Okay, that's a very interesting take. Also, something that jumps out at us is the fact that despite the number of postponements by the NNPC concerning the commencement of operations at the Port Harcourt refinery, eventually it came to life, and now we're seeing the Warri refinery coming to life as well. There's also talk about the Kaduna refinery where the NNPC have told us that they won't give us a date, but it will be a surprise. I don't know why that is, as it is in that case. A particular date would be fine, but I mean, looking at how they've been, failing in certain promises with the other refineries, I guess they don't want to, put their foot in their mouth as it is. But my point here is, after so many years of these refineries not being functional, not doing anything, not producing anything, in the matter of a short space of time, depending on how you look at it, we have two refineries that are functional. Now, does this show that if if we put our minds to things, if the government or if those involved decide this thing we are going to do it, we actually can get things done in Nigeria, don't you think?
So there is no question that if we do want to achieve our goals, our targets, we have the individuals in terms of human capacity. We can find the resources if they are going to be if it's going to create value to be able to get things working in Nigeria. I think that has never been the question. I think, like you've pointed out, what has always been the question is the commitment of the individuals, the commitment of those leading this country, the commitment of the people who are following those leading these countries to understand that these are the things that we need to do and to be able to stick to it and be able to deliver them. So the execution is it, the separation of political intent or political needs with strategic needs is also a big intent. So, for instance, we've been dancing around the stories around the Port Harcourt refinery, because they've been, even after the announcement of the opening and the operations, there's been some allusions about what exactly is happening at the Port Harcourt refinery. Like I said at the start of the story, I would like to stick with the official positions. I don't want to go into all the other things that have come out of, is the Port Harcourt refinery working or is it not working? That's another question that I think, and I always tell people at the end of the day, the numbers will tell. We would either see that input either go into the market and supply in the market and would see the impact on the market,
Right.
or we would see the impact if we are exporting and we would see the impact in our receivables as a country. Let's not forget that yes, while there's a lot of focus on PMS, there are a lot of other products that should come out of the refinery. So I don't have any debate. I would not go into any debate with somebody saying, "Oh, the refineries are not doing PMS. They are doing kerosene. They are doing naphtha. They could, as far as I'm concerned, they could be doing engine oil. You know, the cost of a 1 liter of engine oil from I bought a 1 liter top up for of engine oil was about 4,750. If there is some way that local refining is able to push that price down to 2,500, it means that the cost of me when I'm going to do a servicing of my vehicle, for instance, anybody doing a service of a vehicle will fall down. So it means that I have less to spend on those activities and more to spend on other things that I need to spend on. So while we tend to focus on PMS, there are a lot of other things. Some people still do a lot of kerosene in this country,
Right.
because they can't afford to use gas. They can't afford to buy gas cookers. They can't expand them. They can't or gas cylinders, gas cookers, or whatever. Or they just make that decision to use it. So there is an entire value chain around it. If we're able to sustain those components of those value chain, why not? If not, so yes, I don't think it's ever been a doubt that we can do stuff if we want to do stuff. It's about, like I said, one of the interesting things about this country is that we always tend to mix up our political intent with strategic needs. It's one of the reasons why I'm a bit wary when the NNPC says they won't give us a date for Kaduna, and they will give us as a surprise. It is not a surprise. We should know that, the NNPC should know, and the people leading the NNPC should know that they are a at best intent now. They've moved into becoming the NMCPCPL or whatever they call. They are a liability company. They are a profit enterprise. They are not into the business of giving surprises or fulfilling political needs, despite the fact that the major shareholder is the federal government, who is controlled by a political head. They are in the business of providing value and delivering revenue and
Mm.
profit for Nigerians. That is their, and their whoever else is invested in the NNPC. So this entire thing about dropping, I'm going to give a surprise. Another private entity who is doing any other business, no, we're not going to tell you when we're going to be on scale. We're going to just drop it like a surprise. Well, maybe because of this is the festive season and they like to give surprises. So let's see how it goes. But really, I would like at least a tentative date. Where obviously Nigerians have gotten used to the fact that your dates are not written in stones, and there are technical reasons why these things will not happen when you plan it to happen. Give something tentative. It doesn't have to be the exact date. Oh, we'll be looking at this quarter because of you have seen what is on ground, and keep the information rolling out. So when you're not able to, because your inability to meet that target date will not happen in one day.
Right.
You would see down the chain. You can communicate that clearly and give the reasons why this has happened. Nigerians want to have the right information. Nigerians are smart people. Give the right information, use your channels, let people start speculating about what is happening or not. Let's stop debating on the 8th. If you have given a deadline on the 8th and we start waking on the 8th or the 7th and say, is it going to happen or is it not going to happen? And when does it happen? Say, well, they've done it again. Let's keep Nigerians part of this chain. That is your responsibility now as a private company or as a for-profit entity.
All right. Let's head out of the petroleum sector into the telecom sector and into the Guardian specifically. Now, I'm pretty sure this is something that you are definitely going to want to jump on. Now, telephone services may any time from now experience disruptions as telecommunications operators have reiterated the need to load shed their operations in order to stay afloat. Now, telcos under the aegis of the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, that's ALTON, on Monday said service shedding is critical to their survival since tariff hikes appear not in sight. Now, this is a playground that you are very well accustomed to, Chibuzor, and we know what's been going on in the economy, and the telecom sector definitely has been affected by this. But they, unlike other businesses, can't say, you know what, our costs have gone up, this has happened, we need to hike up our prices and transfer to the consumers. They can't do that, but they need to find a way in order to survive. Now, it looks like load shedding is something on the table. First of all, what does that mean exactly on one hand, and then what does that mean for the average Nigerian out there on the streets?
So I think what the chairman of Alton is alluding to is that in terms of load shedding or service shedding is, typically like Nigerians are used to load shedding from the power sector, right? Which is that would give you power for X number of days or hours in a day. You would
Mm,
not have. We'll move it to the other place because we have this X capacity, and this is what we're able to give at this particular period of time. And so he's alluding to something similar in telecom sector, which is either you would get service or you might not get the best form of optimal service, something of that nature. That is what he's alluding to. I think about last week, some news broke that there has been some. Yeah, I'm not sure how official that piece of news was about the approval for tariff adjustments, but would get to know and see when that actually comes into full swing in the new year, if that is actually something that's happened. To start with, you mentioned a lot of things about the sector, obviously, unlike most other sectors. So you go into Mama Titi's shop down the street. If the price of meat in the market has gone up due to inflation, which is about 30 something percent, and Mama BC walked into the market and was not able to buy meat at the same price that she bought it the last time.
right.
Mama BC has two options. Either Mama BC increases the price of meat on her plates and asks you to pay for it, or what we tend to see in Nigeria is, I think is this sachetization, and where you see Mama BC now reducing the size of the meat.
Shrinkflation.
Nigerians have, it's we just make shrinkflation. So Mama BC does, she knows that, hey, her customers work on a site. They are not getting more than their 4,005 every day. It hasn't increased because they are not able to ask for more. The guy who owns the site is not able to pay for more.
Right.
So what does she do? She just cuts the meat and reduces it to a cube and sells it for the same price. So she has two options. Now, and that has happened across the economy. So if all of us know that, especially this festive season, what we would spend on buying food stuff or clothes or whatever we spend on previously has increased. The power sector that we talk a lot has increased their tariffs in course of the year to what we now have the band A, band B segmentation, and we are still hearing a lot more of that coming through. Now, and we've seen it also even in the fuel supply where prices have moved up, have adjusted continuously in the course of the year. Now, what the telcos are saying is, hey, we work in a sector, we deliver services in a sector where most of our inputs are forex driven.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because our equipment is forex driven. They are not produced locally in Nigeria. We are going to have to bring them in from Europe. We're going to have to bring them in from China. The prices have gone up. We need to account for that in our planning. Our cost for getting power has shot up because obviously a lot of us are going to fall into band A, so we are paying, you know, X times
Mm.
what we were paying
Quite
last year.
quite a lot more
So our
than
costs are going
before.
to every other item that we are procuring, we are buying services, we are getting services. If we are getting specialist services or from outside the country, obviously they'll benchmark in the foreign currency, so our costs for those services have gone up. Even when we are buying stuff locally, if you are buying whatever we're even procuring locally has gone up because due to inflation, due to the fact that if whoever you're procuring from is also getting it from abroad, he's going to charge you that value. So if you look across the entire value chain, a lot of the prices of the components of service that the telcos are delivering has increased. So what they're asking, or what telcos have been pushing and what Alton has been in the front of is saying, you know what, we need to be able to find a way to be able to adjust our tariffs to be able to deliver a we have to be able to price our products at a reflective price so that there will be some sustainability in this sector. And if we
Mm.
don't, the telcos will keep spending out of the money that they have their reserves until the point where they are not able to provide services, and that is going to be a critical point. Don't forget, we are looking at a sector that in the last few years has been one of the major payers in terms of taxes, has been one of the major contributors in terms of other value chains, CSR and stuff across the country, has poured on, and when people look at the telecommunication sector, you're not just looking at one business or 4 or 5 businesses or 6 businesses. You are looking at a lot of ancillary businesses have spread off or sprung off due
Mm.
to that sector. So it is something that is critical to the Nigerian economy. And I think it's something that an answer needs to be found out. And at the end of the day, why this hasn't happened is because obviously the sector in itself is regulated by a regulator. So the regulator will decide if there's need for if we'll have to approve any price changes, and that is where we are at the moment. So we look to see if there is an approval, a formal approval by the regulators in terms of the NCC, or there's some headway in terms of getting these new tariffs out, and how much of an impact it will have in the telcos being able to manage their services, being able to grow and improve their services. Because even if you look at where we are in Nigeria, there is a need for expansion. A lot of Nigerians complain are still talking about data penetration, you know, how data will spur on the economy. And the truth is that even if you're looking at getting any service from out of the country, that at the end of the day, it's something that as long as these telcos need to perform, need to operate, need to pay their taxes, need to make their contribution to the society, and the way they see it at this point is that that would happen effectively only if they're able to charge cost reflective prices. So we're expecting we're watching what happens between now and going into the new year with the NCC.
All right, fingers crossed on that one because we know that a lot of things in Nigeria are driven by the telecommunication sector, and it would not be a good look or a good thing at all if those services are impacted. Let me take a couple of messages before we get back into our next story here. Yemi from Marina says, I commend the administration for the delivery of these refineries. I, however, fear that this is the end of any significant achievement in this administration. 2025 is here. The focus will once more shift to politics and elections. God bless Nigeria. All right. Yemi from Marina. Taiwo from Olodia Papa says he's wondering if maybe it's the cabals that made the refineries not to work that are now in administration. A very, very big maybe. Cisco Delgado says, and he's talking to Chibuzor, he says, if Nigeria can revert to the old national anthem, I think we should also go back to days of using telegrams and postmasters and this issue of load shedding in the telecom sector. It's not being used in school. I'm not going back to that. Let's not play that kind of game. Anyways, keep those messages coming in on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. All right, let's get back into the stories right here and talk about some loans and the World Bank. This is from the Daily Post newspaper. Now, the World Bank has fully disbursed the Punch newspaper, I beg your pardon. The World Bank has fully disbursed a $1.5 billion loan to Nigeria following the federal government's implementation of key reforms, including removing fuel subsidies and introducing comprehensive tax policies. Now, the loan, part of the reforms for economic stabilization to enable transformation development policy financing initiative, that's quite a mouthful, is among the fastest disbursements Nigeria has received, with both tranches released in less than 6 months. So, $1.5 billion loan, and both tranches have been released. What does this mean in the immediate and the long term as well?
What does this mean in the immediate? Is obviously the government, this current government has made a lot of projections and planning with these loans, or this loan disbursement in view. So it means that the government will be able to fund some of the plans that they put forward. As most of us are aware, a chunk of our budget is going to be funded by debt. So some of these loans are going to fund aspects of the budget. And I think before Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians come with their pitchforks and start jumping on the World Bank. I always tell people this thing: if you have a cousin or a family friend or a friend who comes to meet you and asks you for a large chunk of money, right? Even if you are unless you want to just give him, there's this phrase about giving the person what you can afford to lose. So you don't really think about it, but you know that this guy comes and meets you. One of the first things he asks you for a loan. One of the first things that goes through your mind is this guy going to be able to pay this loan back? And you're looking at, okay, what does this guy do for a living? How much income is coming from that? And maybe the guy is, the guy is asking for 100 million, and he does a job that probably gives him 20, 30, 40 million, or 20, 30, 40,000 a month, or even 100,000 a month. The first thing you're asking me, how do you expect to pay this money back? You can come with one cock and bull story, or sorry, about how he intends to pay, but you're going to question him. You're going to ask him what he wants to do. So typically, what you're going to hold him accountable. When you find out he has some means of payment, then you get a bit comfortable. Okay, I can make this alone. If not, most times what you will do is that, you know what, I can't give you 100. This is what I can give you. You probably give him some kick jump, a huge a small percentage or whatever you have, so just to get him away from your house and say, this is what I have. Because at the end, the back of your mind, what you are thinking is that this is how much I can afford to lose, or
in case he can't pay back,
give him
it won't
without,
hurt me.
without losing sleep over it. So, but when you see somebody who comes here, I have this business plan, I'm expecting this vessel coming in, and it's going to bring me this number of products, and you've probably done business with that person before. You look at how much it's going to bring in, and you just ask for maybe some things to de-risk your investment. Maybe if you look for collateral, like some people would say, some people collect things to hold on to. Now, why I'm using that analogy is pointing back at what has happened with the World Bank and Nigeria. Basically, you're asking for a loan from the World Bank, which you're going to pay back. I think the payment back is in 24 years. The World Bank has basically said, see, I can see where you guys are going. I can see what you guys are spending money on. You are doing, you guys are always throwing parties. The part that you are corrupting, the part of it that the ones that have been eating, the part you are throwing into this your program of spending the money, this your subsidy thing. I see that a chunk of it is going into some other people's pockets. I can't deal with this.
Right.
That
right,
for me, for me to get the guarantee I'm going to pay, you're going to get my money back. That you are going to de-risk that process by getting rid of the subsidy. And in true form, what they asked the government to do is take the amount of money that you would have spent on subsidies and find solutions to your people's needs. Now, the challenge with Nigerians and challenge with how Nigerians are getting is that Nigerians are not seeing the solutions from those savings from subsidy coming to them at the moment, or they are not seeing it at all. Well, based on their previous experience, typically would not see that. So that's where Nigerians have lost the trust for their governments to implement. They've asked that, you guys, you need to walk away from the subsidy thing and spend your money on things that will create more value. You guys need to sort out your tax system so that at least you can generate some good money from taxes. That you have a huge chunk of people who are making money in Nigeria, in this your country that you claim to have over 200 million people who are not paying taxes. That your tax collections or your tax numbers do not correlate with the number of people that you see are in work or people are generating value. And we see these people every day of the week. How do you get them in the tax bracket? So they've given these conditions and say, we're going to give you X amount to ensure that you sort out these issues. We've looked at some of the issues in your tax system, and we need you to sort this out. I will give you this amount if you're able to sort it out. We'll give you this other amount. We'll guarantee that we'll give you this amount if you're able to sort out your subsidies, which is what they've done now. So how we use the funds that are coming from the World Bank is our challenge and our responsibility. Whatever the intent of the World Bank is a different thing, but at the end of it, the crux is on us as Nigerians, on the people that we have said we have elected.
And it's an age-old challenge. To really
use these funds accountably in a strategic fashion that delivers value for the people of Nigeria, and also to make the best decision. So if you had approached the World Bank and said, this is not going to work for us, this is what we want to do, and you're able to convince them, the money, if they would have to make that decision based on what you have put before them. So if you've chosen to toe this line and you have also looked at it and you've done your numbers and this is the best solution for it, then let's make it work. That is all that Nigerians need to see at the end of the day. We want to make this work so that we don't end up paying for something that did not give us any value, and instead we see convoys of cars, new jets, new houses, and every other thing that most Nigerians will never enjoy.
And that is something that definitely needs to change. All these monies that come in that are supposed to be used for projects and infrastructure and so on and so forth that will make the lives of Nigerians better, we need to really kill that culture of wastage and, of course, misappropriation of funds. Let's take some messages as we round up this morning on Freshly Pressed. Idemapuza says, the truth will set us free in Nigeria. Enough of all the lies and propaganda in the incoming year. Hunger in the land is so much that the federal government should focus on feeding Nigerians through mechanized agriculture. This must be done in all states. If done, hunger will disappear and youth will be employed. Yes, it's a great idea, but it's a whole lot easier said than done. Barrister Danukuda says, this one is cheerful news coming out of the President's Tinubu administration. We're expecting a lot more. Ibrahim Zakari says he's an optimist, but with the government of the day, he thinks it's not Uhuru yet. And he says until Nigerians see fuel pump prices drop to at least 400 naira per liter, we are not there yet. At least the president is working to make the refineries start working. Well, one step at a time, as Jordan Spark says. Joseph Meunier says, and compliments of the season to you too as well. Joseph, he says, it's unfortunate the level of hypocrisy and corruption different companies carry out. The telcos have several times increased data and calls indirectly. Once upon a time, I did 5,000 naira for 40 gigabytes, but now it's 5,500 naira for 25. So how do you explain such practices? The government should do the needful, as the country is in dire straits. We can't afford such pains going into the new year. Thank you for sharing those thoughts there, Joseph. Gilbert Musa from Festac says, on the recent commencement of operations of the Warri refinery, the question is, are we certain this recent trend will be sustained? As we speak, we have conflicting information on the operation of the Port Harcourt refinery, if it is still in operation. And that is something the government really needs to put a focus on, because of, is it not? They really need to honestly and come with clean hands and let Nigerians know that refinery actually is working as they say, because there's been too much speculation. That is something we don't need going forward. And Oluwaseyi says they're working on Kaduna refinery and there's no timeline for it to come online, and it's going to be a surprise. And he's laughing at that one. Last I heard, Kaduna refinery was made to refine a different form of crude oil, specifically that from Venezuela, or is that not true? I can't speak to that, Oluwaseyi. Right now, I can't. Or they're going to reconfigure it to refine Nigerian crude while they're working on it. But even if every one of these things aren't true, how will the NNPCL get crude to the refinery? Since PPMC, I can't remember their name again, Seth, is only existing on paper because all our pipelines are out of commission. Will they be getting crude to it via trucks? Or is any of the northern fields where we spent Nigeria's money chasing become operational? These are all important questions that we need to ask the NNPCL. And yeah, a lot of questions that definitely need to be asked, and we will definitely be keeping our eyes keenly on these issues. But we need to call it a morning on Freshly Pressed on a Tuesday, and the last Freshly Pressed of the year 2024. Thank you so much, Chibuzor, for keeping it locked throughout the entirety of this year. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Happy New Year to most Nigerians as we get there tomorrow. And we hope for better times.
Definitely hope for better times. 2025, it's going to be our year. We say that all the time, but say it and believe it as well. Thank you for keeping it tuned for all the messages, and of course streaming on YouTube as well. Don't go anywhere. The Smooth Breakfast is going to kick on at 8:15. We'll get into the Grapevine. It's all about entertainment, gist, and so much more. Always so many questions, not enough answers.